all of our attendees. It's time to deep dive into our next session. And again, a very interesting topic coming your way, wherein we talk about deconstructing the future of work. And the big question is, are you ready for the change? And I'm sure that the last 16, 18 months actually got us adapted to a very different kind of a change. In fact, the future of work, as we all believe, also came faster than we thought, because the crisis brought forth the importance of innovation, resilience, and adaptability, which is why it is very, very important for us to get on board our set of amazing leaders in order to come together and share their observations. What are the learnings? What's the way forward? What's the roadmap? What's the framework that they'd like to share? This is all coming from the leadership in order to ensure that you all can also gather some wonderful nuggets of insights from all of our speakers. So I hope all of you are set. And let me also quickly introduce our speakers who are joining in. In fact, spearheading this panel discussion, we have with us Mr. Sriram, Balasubramanian, Worldwide Business Process Reengineering, Apple, who will be moderating the session and also extracting insights from fellow panelists. In fact, our speakers also include Mr. Umakanth Nair, Director, Global Supply Chain, Center of Excellence, Eaton. We also have with us Mr. Chandan Shirbhayye, AVP and Head of Supply Chain with Aragen Life Sciences Private Limited. Mr. Devendra Rawat, Director, Planning and Distribution, South Asia, Middle East and North Africa, Levi, Strauss and Company. We're also joined by Mr. Khushal, Birari, Sourcing Leader, Global Supply Chain, Woodward Incorporates. And we also have with us Mr. Venkataramana Murthy, Gadepally, General Manager, SCM and Logistics, Minda Corporation Limited. Mr. Supratim, Halder, Senior Director and Head Operational Excellence, Sai Life Sciences Limited, and Mr. Himanshu, Maloo, Head Supply Chain, Pharma, Udaan. So it's time to get on board and get the answer for the big question. Are you ready for change? Let's get the answers from all of our speakers, and I'm going to hand over the proceedings to Sriram. Over to you there.
Thank you, Tulika. Thanks, Harish. It was really nice, nice introduction, and it's really thanks for the opportunity. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to moderate such an august panel consisting of eminent supply chain experts, and I think it'll be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure, for all of you. We have experts from consulting, from consumer goods, we have from auto, we have from aerospace, and also pharma and life sciences. So it's I'm looking forward to this discussion as much as you guys are all looking forward to it. So quickly, to give you a context of this before I bring in the panelists, I think the pandemic situation has basically been a big black swan event for the entire industry, and it has taken us all by surprise. Nobody expected that such a thing would ever happen. All the kind of risk management experts have been put to shame. Nobody could to be fair, nobody could have ever predicted this kind of contingency plan, or nobody could have had a plan for this. But looking forward, how do we basically? It's up to us to basically see how we can pick up the learnings from this, and see how we can de-risk our supply chains and our organizations in the future, and what are the basic ingredients for those. So it was always said that we need to unlearn and relearn, and it used to sound like such a cliche. I don't think after this pandemic that would sound like a cliche anymore, because I think this, if not anything else, that this pandemic has taught us, and this lockdown has taught us, it is that we need to be nimble, we need to be open to unlearning and relearning what we need to do. And that's basically the very interesting topic of this conversation, deconstructing the future of work. So first we need to understand what happened and what are the learnings here. And based on these learnings, how do we reconstruct the supply chain to the way, or the organization to the way we want it to be resilient. So just quickly want to come in with a couple of examples which showed us how organizations were dealing with the situation earlier, and how it would be different going forward. The first example is there is a manufacturing organization which probably had it's a very leading organization, and I'm sure it has happened to a lot of manufacturing organizations. The IT policies and the kind of cybersecurity policies were very restricted before the pandemic, and This meant that even the senior executives and the planners wouldn't even have laptops to work from home. And they used to work on desktops, and they had to be connected to the LAN network in the office. Now you know what has happened, and how the situation would have been as soon as the lockdown hit. Suddenly there would have been a scramble, and all the policies had to be relooked and overlooked overnight, and the policies had to be tweaked to be enable the planners and the managers to be able to work from home, and the desktops had to be shipped on the highest priorities to them. And that is basically something that the organization learned and quickly course corrected. And I'm sure going forward, a lot of organizations would consider a hybrid working model, not just a work from home model, but a hybrid model of working as one of their backup plans, and policies would be basically conducive to that. And I think a lot of IT companies have taken the lead in that. A lot of manufacturing companies are taking a cue and are de-risking themselves now from that. The second is about possibilities. The possibility of, before the pandemic, could you have imagined that an audit could happen, a detailed audit could happen online? Well, a lot of hospitals I know have undergone detailed audits online. And that's basically the paradigm shift. That means we have brought a lot of efficiencies, we have made processes very nimble, and we have made made it very productive to found a very productive way of working. Also, the added benefits of having the employees engaged well and giving them a good work-life balance. I think these are the quick learnings for the pandemic, and on the way how we can reconstruct our organizations and the way we work. So what we have done is, as a panel, we discussed that there are various very good questions there which had been put up. And what we decided was we would take those 3 questions and put them into 3 tracks. And these 3 tracks would basically help us to answer all the questions that have come up and more. So the first track would be on strategy and leadership. It's a very critical track which basically sets the tone and the vision of the leadership on how the organization should work. The second is an equally important one. If you have a leadership and a strategy, if you don't have the teamwork or the competencies and skills to do it, you're nowhere. So that is the second topic, the teamwork and competencies. And the third one is basically about learnings and innovative approaches. Well, there have been a lot of learnings during the pandemic, and organizations have actually welcomed those changes with open arms. We have been innovative about it, but we have been extra innovative about it now. So I'll jump into the first track and invite panelists now. Strategy and leadership. It is a critical driver of how organizations are able to change and course correct immediately and adapt to the change. Which can be, and this can be attributed to how the leadership thinks and how the leadership basically envisions the organization. So we'll talk about some of them, and I invite Umakanth Nair from the consulting world, and I think he has got a lot of experience in advising customers in this time on how organizations should course correct. So without wasting any further time, request Umakanth to please come in, share his thoughts.
Thanks, Sriram. I hope I'm audible and clear.
Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you once again to the organizing committee to give us this opportunity. Great sessions overall when I look at the entire flow of the discussion, starting from the supply chain disruptions and manufacturing. And that's the right time to talk in the afternoon about what is the future and how leaders should be looking at future direction, work as well as the workforce. Now, Sriram, you touched base on a hybrid model or coming back to office, or what will pull more opportunities in terms of a hybrid model. So I want to just segment it from my experience as well as what we are focusing at our own organization into 6 buckets. So when we look at this overall opportunity, the future work transformation, everything depends upon the culture of organization which shapes the future, current as well as future. And at Eaton, our core values is more on the ethics side of it, and trust and transparency, which is really important for us. And that is the values. Those are the values which we leave with it. So that's the first point. And the second is more of the purpose and meaningful work. And you must have heard it many times, but in the current pandemic, which is going through with a lot of opportunities outside the world, every company, including ours, are going through a lot of challenges in terms of retaining the talent as well. So what are the possibilities to make that understanding to every individual in the organization about the higher purpose? Meaning, is there a personal impact of each employee's work connecting to the higher purpose? So picking up as an example, if I'm working on the supply chain related activities, which is more on the front end material execution side of it, how my work is connected to the global organization, how fast I'm able to deliver the parts without having a lot of disruption, or how I'm managing the disruption without having any impact on the revenue side of it. So that's the purpose, which is really important. Second piece, which is known to everybody. The third piece is being talked in the entire panel discussion, which is the technology enhancement. Mr. Kailash from Snyder already touched base on the challenges in supply chains, and then how do we want to evolve in the poor planning side of it, how we want to shift our digital transformation on the journey by connecting all the threads from the forecasting to the end of supply chain. That's a focus what we are also bringing in Eaton, where technology enhancement would be driving the workforce strategy as well as the future work for the industry. And not to forget, the sustainable supply chain is only possible in the future with more technology. It may not be a sustainable solution to have only relationship-based organization in the future. Pace of change is one thing which is changing after pandemic, which is more of earlier the digital connectivity, digital transformation were more on the table talk, or maybe through the conferences. Now every industry is changing and shifting the investment. That's the same for us at Eaton level as well. Our focus is how can we adapt fast and comfortable in challenging the status quo, and also receiving as a leader, receiving the challenge from our employees, which is very important, because it's not easy for only one-way communication. So being that transparent, keeping the transparency to get the challenge from the other side as well. The talent landscape has changed completely in the post-pandemic. That's going to come in. What you can see also with the changing supply chain trends in the electronics and electrical shortages, what you can see. Blended that with the data side of is what we are currently focusing on, what kind of talent, what we need for the future work, what we are defining here. At the same time, how do we position more global talent? So that's important. Any organization, it's important, because from India, we always talk about globalization, global talents, representing global talents. So that's the major focus for us when we are looking at our overall future work and the workforce direction here in Eaton. Back to you, Sriram.
Thanks, Umakanth. I think this was really very, very enlightening, actually, the way you thought about the strategy and the leadership. I think a lot of important points there. I'll quickly collect some further insights from quick insights from Khushal. I think he comes with a lot of experience as well. Khushal, your insights on this?
Yeah, so I think we have just witnessed one of the unprecedented event. And in my opinion, response of the leaders will decide the fate of the organizations to be more, sustainable and successful. One of the major area, what I believe would be, all the employees have seen how their organizations have behaved during the pandemic. So basically, they were watching, do they walk their talk, or they just preach through their mission statements, visions, and a lot of messages they sent out through the media. So a lot of organizations they did took very harsh decisions to downsize their employees, take up some decisions to which were unfriendly to the employee salary cuts and those kind of stuff. But at the same time, there were many organizations they were really coming up one step forward. For example, Woodward. During the second wave, when there was a shortage of oxygen concentrators everywhere, so this company quickly ordered a few concentrators from our US plants and kept at all the locations where our employees were here. So at least the anxiety of the employees to support their family members or to support their friends, relatives when they need it most was significantly down. And this was, many of our employees, they talked to me personally, and they did express that this was a very nice gesture, and that was really standing to what you preach in your constitution. So what I expect is in the prospective employees also would definitely look at these companies as a favorite companies to work for in future. Another area which was kind of, many companies have increased their contingent workforce in order to be more, responsive to the situation. So there would be a need to relook the policy to, address the inequity and remodel their employee performance rewards for both of these groups, because you are expecting same kind of productivity engagement from contingent workforce as well as your permanent workforce. But you don't directly control the performance reward system of your contingent workforce. So this will be key. And so in my opinion, the focus should be creating an all-weather proof workforce or culture going forward from leadership and strategy point of view.
Thanks, Khushal. I think very, very interesting, not only having the vision, but also, management walking the talk, and some really, far-sighted and heart-touching, innovative measures to reassure the employees that they are really the focus of the whole organization. I think that's really, really nice to hear from you. And now I would request Supratim, who has been, his industry has been in the forefront, pharma and life sciences. They have been in the forefront of all this pandemic, and they have gone through not only providing the medical, the kind of vaccination, but also all the critical medical care and the medicines that are required for treating the patient. I think it'll be really interesting to hear from Supratim about his perspectives on strategy and leadership. Supratim, can you
thanks, Sriram. Thanks. So I will start, Sriram, with a couple of examples that you are giving. I mean, the second one, the way of working, the way currently you are working has changed a lot. I mean, we used to have, for example, Pharma, right? There is US FDA audits are happening. I mean, they used to come now virtually. Now it is going to virtual tours. The customers are coming virtually also. The life sciences space. There are a lot of clients that we have to interact to show them, particularly, the big pharma companies, and we are all doing now virtually. I mean, it has become a virtual. So with this new ways of working, now it is becoming more important that we have a framework in place, right? How we do this strategy to execution connect. So what we do for this framework, we start with the business result. So what is the business result that we are looking for the organization? Now, to have this business result in place, we require certain strategies, right? It can be a long-term strategy. It can be immediate strategy. For the strategy to be properly implemented and governed, we require a governance principle, governance mechanism across different levels of the organization. Now, this governance cannot run without a proper metrics, both for business metrics as well as process metrics. So these metrics we have to continuously measure and improve. Now, for that, we require definitely process to be get improved, and each of these metrics we should record the accountability. So the people who are accountable for the metrics, not only at managerial level, but at the shop floor as well. So connecting that is very important. And finally, going to the technology, right? So technology is very important, and nobody will deny now after this pandemic that technology is how important. In fact, it has accelerated all these our technology journeys much faster. So But again, technology we should not adopt, just because some of the other organizations are using. It should be aligned with the strategy, right? So that's why it is important that we start with our outcome and then strategy and goes to the technology. But when we implement, we'll start with the technology and we'll move to process, people, and moving to the upper side. If this is the framework, so we should know how also it will help us to implement. I'll give you a couple of examples on some of the tools and best practices. So one of the tools that we use called strategy deployment process. It works on X matrix. So it looks for 5 years horizon of the strategy. Then it brings into the 1 year immediate strategy. And then what are the strategic priorities we should have for the current year. Then moving into the scorecard for the organization and in various level of the business. Now, to make those scorecard to achieve, we have certain KPIs and a target to improve, and governed by certain teams and owners will be doing that. And finally, if that is what we want to achieve, we require the middle management as well as the team who are working, say, in manufacturing space and supply chain, R&D, or in sales marketing. Everybody should have connected with some daily management KPIs. So that is where the team comes on a daily basis for 15-20 minutes, and there are some well-defined KPIs in across different functions. They discuss, and if it is within the target or outside the target, they do the planning based on that. So this is the way, one example how the strategy can be linked to the execution, how we can make our processes better, faster. What do you, Sriram?
Yeah. Thanks, Supratim. So I think that was really some really good points. Basically, not only basically talking about defining upfront what the results mean, but also using technology not just as a tool, but also looking at the outcomes so that you use technology in the purpose-driven manner. I think really good points from your side and some really great examples. I think now we can go to Dev and get his experiences on his industry, the industry that he works in, the consumer goods industry has been heavily impacted, and I think it's also meant that it's heavily impacted the way the organization has looked at processes. So I would like to request Dev to come in and tell us his experiences on how his organization and how he basically sees this situation.
Sure, Sriram. Thanks, Sriram, and thanks to other panelists for some wonderful insights. I think all of this is true. The way things have changed has really, pushed all the organizations to look at things in a much more strategic, much more holistic way. And I think while we have talked about various things till now, one aspect which I would like to touch upon is strategic workforce planning. I think that's something which was always important, and I have seen the kind of companies that I have worked for in PepsiCo, 3M, and now Levi's. This has always been a very important pillar for the function, for the organization. I think it has become even more important now. So with all the various changes, with the kind of ways in which things have gone virtual, technology has gained a lot of importance, and hence it becomes, when we are looking at the workforce planning, it becomes even more important for it to be looked at it from a technology point of view. So so in two ways in which you would put, I would put it in two categories. One is really looking at your workforce overall, analyzing your team, the skills they have, the experience they have, and how do you really look at the what are the gaps and how do you fill those gaps, what are the needs of future, how you can upskill, train, make your organization and make your team, make your function more technology savvy. At the same time, there will also be a need to infuse external talent and to look at those specific important elements that you would like to introduce, could be related to AI, ML, and a lot of other technological advancements that you would want to bring in the function. So I think really looking at your organization, looking at your function from that lens, and trying to see, what's really my current profile, where do I want to be, what are the gaps, and how do I reach there. I think that's really important. And then the next stage to this will also be looking at your current team members, and also having an assessment of how these team members can grow. So the strategic workforce planning was always about also looking at the individually each team member, and figuring out the next level or the next two levels where that person can be in. I think the whole technology lens has come in with this whole shift in priorities during pandemic, and hence uh, figuring out what's really required for the team overall. At the same time, figuring out what is required at an individual level, on how you can make the team grow and upskill and create your team for the future. I think that's really a very important aspect of strategy and leadership now. When we look at how do I really prepare my organization for future. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dave. That's wonderful. A lot of very useful points from how you can use technology for strategic workforce management, to the way how consumer companies have actually, including yours, have actually taken this piece. I think it's really, thank you very much for your insights there. Before we move to the second track, I'd like to quickly collect a couple of points from Himanshu. Himanshu, can you come in with your inputs in this?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sriram. I think again, it has been really good to hear everyone. And see, if you look at it from what I see is that the world has been changing very fast. The way Sensex has been moving very fast. I think the horizon for the strategy has also reduced. Now, earlier we used to talk about strategy for 5 years, 10 years. We used to have a government used to have 5 years development plan, and now Niti Aayog is looking at more at 1 year strategic plan. So similarly, I think the overall horizon for any organization to decide the strategy has reduced, and now people are looking at strategy for next 3 months, 6 months time, 9 months time. Now the critical thing is that if your strategic horizon reduces, changes, are compressed, gets compressed, then you have to have the organization which is very agile to again change your strategy after 3 or 6 months. Right, because if you're looking at your strategy for 3 months, 6 months, you need to have a new strategy after 3 or 6 months, and then your execution also has to be equally fast. So overall, I think the important thing is that we need to be much more agile. We need to look at short term also much more intensely in terms of the strategy, not just on a tactical way. So that's one, I think, the big shift which is happening now across the organizations.
Thanks, Himanshu. I think that's a very important point. Talking about earlier, we used to talk about strategy in a 5-year horizon, but I think now with the changing situation, for organizations to be nimble and agile, I think we need to look at how long is strategy, how long do we define strategy as, and likewise, if that strategy shrinks, then where is the tactical piece? How long is that, and how is the operational one? So I think
absolutely, and fail fast, move fast.
Yeah, so that's a really fantastic point. And I think on that note, I think we'll conclude this strategy session. I think this track was really the base of all the other tracks that we talk about, and I think we have really got some very good points to build on. Moving to the second one, that to implement this strategy and the vision of the leadership here, we need what is a very, very strong teamwork, and what we mean by teamwork is we need to have a diverse team of people having complementary skills and competencies to be able to implement those strategies that have been drawn on the drawing board, and be able to realize that for the organization. So I think it's a very important element of strategy, the execution piece, and for that the people. One more cliche is that the people are at the center of business. In this case, it is truly so. It is not a cliche anymore. People have realized that, and I just want to quickly go to Khushal. I think Khushal, your inputs and your thoughts on this critical piece of how do we basically build teamwork, and how do we basically build teams which have the right competencies and the skill sets to help the organizations to build the new organization for the future.
Yeah, thank you, Sriram. So just to set the context, the employees we have been talking in last 1.5 to 2 years. What our observation is, almost 70% of them, they said that they would want to be at least be working from home partially in a week would be an important criteria for selecting their next job. So that's important from employees' point of view, and organizations also, they started seeing value in work from home. So this calls for an very effective and impactful collaboration tool. So this will definitely there will be a need to de-skill and then reskill the workforce to be more skilled around managing and working with those collaboration tools. So the organizations which are successful in selecting, deploying, and developing the right collaboration tools would be the most successful organizations going forward. So once we get onto this collaboration tool, so this will also pose a big challenge to the HR to measure the productivity of the employees, to measure the employee experiences, to measure the employee engagement. So this will, because we are changing the context of the game. So the rules of the games are changing now. So the game which was kind of earlier attendance driven is becoming more of a result oriented now. So you need to have a different set of measurements for that. So with that, I would like to introduce one interesting concept which was introduced by a famous author, Nassim Taleb. So, and this is, he says that how the anti-fragile, I'm going to talk about the anti-fragility. So the event which we saw, COVID, it's something like a black swan event. So that happens once in a decade, once in 100 years, or once in 50 years, and it is completely unpredictable, and it gets a huge impact onto the humanity. To deal with this kind of disruptions, so a lot of organizations are talking about resilient organizations or robust systems. So the anti-fragility is one step beyond it. So when we say resilient, it's ability to recover from the failure. Or when we say robust, it's ability to resist the failure. But when we say anti-fragile, so this thing is something which makes you more stronger. It gains from the disorder when there is an uncertainty, shock, failure, randomness, noise, chaos. So you become more and more stronger. So this concept is already, they have been trying to adopt into economics, stock market, financial markets, and risk management area. So what we thought is, how do we adopt or implement this into our kind of environment? And then we thought of, in some of the areas, what we did was take out some of your important resources, human resources, or critical business tools or processes off from the system for few days in a month or few hours in a week, and see what impact it has got onto the overall organization or system, whether it's pull everything down or not. If it does, then what can be done to ensure that system doesn't get affected in future for such kind of uncertainties or failures or impacts. So one by one, we are trying to address those areas, and we're trying to become more and more anti-fragile company rather than becoming more resilient or robust organization. The third important aspect, what we did during the pandemic was, this lean, which is a very conventional, traditional concept coming from Toyota and all. But, we've seen that many organizations, they faced very harsh realities in the pandemic. They found many inefficiencies in waste in their system, and they worked through it. Earlier, a couple of things which are like, the on-site supplier audits, on-site process audits, capability walkthroughs, which we never thought can be done virtually. We have developed some virtual tools around it and tried to do it, a virtual way. And I think so far we have been successful and been able to do it virtually. So I think these are the three areas which we have been focusing on from the teamwork and competency building point of view. To face this kind of black swan events.
Thanks, Khushal. I think that is very interesting, the anti-fragility concept. I know a lot of banks do that to basically ensure that the processes are not very people dependent, and it is a process indeed. And they do it. They send people on mandatory leave for a couple of weeks and see how the system copes. It's a very, very important concept, and especially in these times, we need to know. We need to understand that processes need to be more robust and less people dependent. Himanshu, your quick thoughts on this point, these points on teamwork and competencies. What do you think are the important critical ones here?
Sure. I think today, again, as we talk, all of us are talking about how things are changing, world is changing, and the competency needs are also changing very frequently. I mean, if we ourselves look at it like maybe 10 or 12 years back, when you have to go to airport, right? You'll get down from your home, you will, wait for the auto or cab to come, and then you'll go, right? Then you got a, facility that you can call up a cab and, you get the cab, right? Then the next thing came in where you can book it online. Then, that point of time, you didn't expect it that you will start knowing the exact location of the cab and the timing. Now you even know that, right? So all these things are basically, changing the customer expectations, the way, the things are getting advanced, customer expectations are continuously increasing. And each of these change needs different kind of competencies at the back end to support, those kind of customer requirements. And therefore, I think building competency is extremely critical now on a continuous basis. We all say that data is a new oil. And if you want to run your organizations more efficiently and the business more efficiently, you need to use this data in a very efficient manner. And therefore, I think one of the important competencies is also about the data analytics. Whatever role you are in, whatever level you are in, you need to understand how do you read the data, how do you analyze those data. So I think competency overall, it can obviously have different meaning for different organization, but the need is to keep upgrading yourself with the newer competencies which are required to perform your job best.
I think very relevant, Himanshu. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that data is a new oil, and we need to all focus on competencies which leverage on the technologies that are available to us. I think very important points there. Chandan, I'd like to go to you to get your insights on what you think and what your organization thinks about this, and how you have been able to build on the competencies and the new way in which the teams are built. Chandan.
Thanks, Sriram. Quick check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Great. Thanks. Wonderful conversation so far. I think the session overall has been going very well. Congratulations to the organizing team, and I hope we all continue the same momentum in this panel as well. So quickly coming on to the point, Sriram, what you said, definitely we have spoken about the Black Swan event, which has really accelerated the transformations of organizations, especially the digital transformation, how it has been driven and how the various organizations have adapted towards it. One element which I would like to bring is pandemic or whatever challenges we see we have faced, it has brought back the human element back into this all the jargon or technology oriented discussions. Earlier, we all used to think technology is everything and it is going to help us operate these ghost factories and etc. etc. But I think the human element has come back into the recognition, and now no discussion happens without considering the human element as the most significant part of it. Now, when we talk about it, so capability building, I am sure we all are aware about. Usually any new drug molecule it's quite cost intensive, time consuming, and failure rate is quite high. But we all saw in terms of vaccine, within 18 months, there were multiple innovator companies who came up with good vaccines, and technology and people played a key role. And we come from the same industry. So we all are aware how the technology and human element came together. So if you ask me what we as an organization at Aragen are doing, we are very much looking to transform ourselves from being a digital solutions company operating in a life sciences industry. We work with all the innovator companies across the globe who are into this life space, but how we can bring a digital solution to them. How we can, so usually digital used to be an internal element, be more efficient, be more automated, but how we can bring more value enhancement to the customers, how we can help them achieve their goal, their end objective faster. And in this process, we have identified certain skills. We said when you are as a team, you need certain competencies available. One is the technological skills. even your supply chain, you need to be an intelligent supply chain. You can't anymore be a supply chain which is procurement efficient, which is logistically well connected. You have to be intelligent supply chain which understands technology very well. Which are the various technologies available in the supply chain, how you can adopt them. Again, supply chain is a highly customized function, industry to industry. So one size does not fit all. So how you can adopt the technology and bring your supply chain to an intelligent level. Second is the critical set of soft skills, because as we say, human element, gradually as we move towards future of work, human presence is going to be more intellectual rather than physical. How you can bring more intellectual element to it, how you can be more emotional intelligence, how you can have resilience, how you can have empathy, critical thinking, leadership kind of roles. So that is going to be very, very important. So our focus is how to develop these skills also into the people. And then third one is obviously the technical knowledge, awareness about the industry you operate into it. So these are the various elements when we talk about teamwork for future industry. So gradually this siloed functioning, so saying the soft skill is part of say X function and technical skills is part of Y function, blue collar, white collar is all going to be blurred. We will all have to merge towards and see how we can do a more high value role rather than being on the physical and mundane task. And some ways to achieve these skills, if you ask me how we are doing internally, we have given this role. So from this has to be a top-down approach. I don't think we will be able to achieve much with a bottoms-up approach. So as an organization, when we meet, our executive committee meets monthly once, each function is supposed to present what innovation they have done in their role and what digital transformation they have done. Internally, we call it as Go Digital Strategy. So what transformation they have done, what challenges they are facing, what skill upgradation, Khushal spoke about upskilling, reskilling. So what you are doing, how you are trying to be prepared for future, we are doing that. And it comes from that functional head being presented to the executive committee. So a lot of us carry certain things. We see our technical team or scientific team talking about a lot of technology solutions to do a drug discovery or development faster. How do you know the toxicology of your molecule without going through that 1,000 reactions? We do that. In supply chain, we talk about how we can have more predictive analytics, how we can be more aware this molecule we are buying first time, but looking at the complexity involved in the custom synthesis, how do you enhance the failure rate of it? How do you are aware about the failure rate? How do you mitigate the risk? Likewise, each function, HR, how do we engage people better? How do we virtually train people? How do we virtually onboard people? How do we give them the same experience what we used to give in person? So these are the various things we are doing internally. We are adapting this Six Sigma methodology. We are trying to define what are the critical skills required. We are measuring the skill levels currently. Then we are analyzing which are the high impact skills which we need to train our people. Then identifying the sample size or the what we say the element where we can adopt this or implement this, and then finally improve on that. So these are there. So just to summarize, if I have to say, I think the future is going to be where we have more human and machine connect, driving the technology transformation. And the skills required are going to be more soft skills rather than the technical skills.
And if I may, add an E or a tech before the skill that you have, so that you have, that you need to have the tech element well covered there. So thanks, Chandan. That was really good. Now we really go to an industry which has been hard. The impact has been very hard, and I think we will get a lot of important lessons from an industry veteran like Mr. Venkataramana. So, Mr. Venkat, we would like to really hear from you on your organization's take on how teamwork is built, especially at this difficult time. And I know it's so difficult to keep the morale high when the industry is hit so badly and you can't do anything about it. Mr. Venkat.
I'm audible, Sriram?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, please.
Thank you. And wonderful panel and wonderful event. We are going through a lot of information. The industry, yes, automotive industry is in the most critical situation. Recently, government has announced some kind of production linked incentive. In spite of that, the recent semiconductor issues have created a tremendous amount of challenge for all the supply chain. While we talk about those things, some of the beautiful parts which have come with my co-panelists now is about resilience, we talk about agility, we talk about all those kind of things. But we talk about digitalization. If you see, generally every organization has got digitalization as one of their pillar nowadays, and it's part of every different function. But at the end of the day, you still have to have a very strong team. And operational team, by large, if you see, the organizations have got generation Z and generation millennial generation only. These generations come with a very peculiar kind of characteristics. They are extremely entrepreneurial mindset. They're hungry for feedback. They're adventurous. They're very conscious about their mental health, and they want privacy, their own space. They're very expressive. When you look at all these kind of characteristics, one of the fundamental things which is required in the organization is an amount of trust, which is an underlying fact. You can say it's like a basically one of the foundation for any of the teamwork, for any of the team to perform exceptionally well whenever there is a huge amount of uncertainty or the pandemic or such kind of crisis comes into. During this period, the organizations have to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, ability to make the people take decisions. And some of the things which I personally feel which organizations should do, and many of the organizations started, including my organization, is basically you need to allow the people to fail, definitely once, not to repeat it. This develops an entrepreneurial mindset. See, the situation has changed from information, knowledge to an application. Now the time for a person to maybe 50 years back or 20 years back, information to application would have at least had 1.5 to 2 years time with an experience of 3 years and all. Now the scenario has changed. The time has so shortened. If you look at the example of the vaccines itself, the vaccines which was taking a decade in the past has taken 18 months now. So the application of it has become so fast, same as the case in the knowledge also. For us to, the team to be able to apply their knowledge, apply their abilities in the fastest manner, you need to give them the freedom. One of the points which was very beautifully said by one of my co-panelists is that we should be more of the leadership should be more of a governance than of a disciplinary. You know, you need to give them a counter side. You know, you create a boundary wall and then you play inside. You try to function the most free way. This is one of the best things where you can develop a lot of amount of trust and confidence in the team, and they are ready to. You know, the generations which we are talking about, generation X, Y, Z, and basically you're talking millennial, they are with so much of energy. They can do wonders if you are left them with a small governance around you, because they are very compliant, but they don't want to be disciplined. Similarly, work from home, discipline, you know, you want flexible timings. You want to attend the meeting from anywhere to anywhere. They don't want to be location based. So all these kind of challenges have made us to give them that freedom. One of the other aspects, we have very peculiar thing. We have something called goal management, which comes from right from the top. Something is a corporate objective and everything drives down from there. It's like a KPI tree. So we, at a department level, we get into KPI tree. We make a vision. You know, many of the organizations, in our organization, we have to do. We have a corporate vision. From there, we have to draft our own department vision, and use these younger generation, these teammates into drafting it. You'll ultimately fantastic collaboration from their side. You make them part of their strategies. You tell them they do extraordinary job for us, and that's the only way we can take us through these kind of crises and make us those LSD or those kind of challenges outside and try to be smarter in their own way. Do not ask them how they did.
I think, Mr. Venkat, we are facing some network issues. We're not able to, your voice is breaking, but I think really very valuable points on how, you know, we should allow people liberty to fail and learn. That's a very critical, important point. And I think also on the KPIs, I think the flexibility, as one of the earlier panelists also said, the focus should be on results and outcomes, and basically put some guardrails and governance around that, and let people let people thrive in those kinds of environments. I think that basically gives a good segue to quickly collect some couple of points from Uma from a consulting perspective on this point before we move to the last topic on the track. Yeah.
So thanks. So very quickly, very good points from our fellow panelists, and I would connect on Khushal's point, and it was he was really connecting to how should be the work from home versus how should be the work from office model, 70-30, what he was mentioning. Little bit contradiction on my side of it when I look at we went work from home all of a sudden, and it was not in a planned way. It was more of it happened to us. And how did we manage it? It was more through our set skills, set processes, set technology. That was a legacy that was happening for a long time, by which it was a possibility to adapt. At some point in time, what I believe is that we need to come back with more as a hybrid model, what we were talking about, or maybe a blended model. Why it is important? Because we, in our own company, what we are looking at is to have more a three type or blended model of hiring, which is more of premium colleges, people coming out of fresh colleges, and at the same time the mid-level career people from our own company, but most importantly hiring people from the external industry who is having those gaps, which who is having those skills which I was mentioning about electronics, electrical, as well as data analytics. Now what are we talking about? We are talking about team. When we talk about team, the socio element or the social element, the human element is really important. At some point in time we need to learn how do we work as a team virtually. For that, we might need to have more collaboration and understand at office, maybe again a blended model. I'm not saying it is going to be 100%, but that's going to help us in enhancing this development or future skills and everything what we are talking about. One last point, while we are focusing on all digital tools, digital transformation, not to forget on the foundational skill set, which is very much required and valuable. And that is something which you can get when you have this kind of team collaboration and connect at the offices or maybe at the supplier end, which is really essential. Back to you.
Thanks, Uma. Thanks, Uma. I think very important points made, and I think we quickly move to the last track here. We have got about 8 to 9 minutes to complete the discussion here. I think the last one is the last and not the least. We talk about what are the important lessons learned and what are the innovative approaches, and who better to start with than Dave, who has worked with companies like 3M and Pepsi and Levi's, who are known to be the creative innovators of the industry. So quickly over to you, Dave.
Yeah. Thanks, Sriram. I think a lot has already been covered, and we have discussed about various aspects. When I touch upon this, I would actually like to put it in two buckets. I would say workplace of future and workforce of future. So if I look at specific things that companies are doing, the specific examples, as well as everything else that has been happening around us, I would say that there is a need to create a workplace of future, and there is also a need to create a workforce of future. And how do we do that? So from the workplace point of view, I think we have already discussed things like, having a pandemic has really opened up to a lot of new ways in which you can engage with the employees. And we have seen many examples of flexible working, a more liberal leave policy. There was a time which was probably one of the worst times in all of our lives, during those 2 months when pandemic was really roaring, and I think companies really gave employees a lot of flexibility in terms of taking care of the family, taking care of friends, care leaves. So Levi's came up actually with a policy of family care leave, extra sick leaves, and all of that. So I think all of those are the kind of examples which have I would put in like creating really the workplace of future. And I think in the discussion we also touched upon that. Now if you look at employees, then I think for most of the employees would like to have a flexible working approach, even in future now, because everyone has realized that this works. So it's not, we don't need to be present 9 to 5, 7 days a week, or 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever it is, in office. So if you see Levi's, 3M, all of the companies have actually come up, they have publicly declared, come up with the policies that we are never going back to 5 days a week in office work again, unless the role specifically demands that. So there will always be a flexible option given. and that is what most of the employees have also chosen to move ahead with. So I think that's really the kind of things which we are seeing around us. Coming to the workforce of future, again, like I touched upon that earlier, about how do you upskill, how do you look at that your employees are really adopting to the new ways of working, both from skill point of view as well as from the ways of working point of view. So whether it is giving specific training programs or giving a specific putting them in specific change management courses, that's something which I have seen companies doing a lot. In fact, if I take an example, Levi has started a AI ML bootcamp for interested employees, and it has been a huge success. A lot of employees have also gone, and some from my team as well are attending this program. They will come back as a much upskilled team members, and can then take up specific projects that we want to drive especially from demand planning and these point of view, where we would like to use those kinds of techniques and methods. So I think these are again, I mean, if I summarize, creating the workplace for future and creating the workforce for future is really where we see a lot of action happening. A lot of companies are taking some leading initiatives, and I'm sure others can learn from that and can also follow with that. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Venkat. I think very important points. And let's quickly go to Mr. Venkat to collect his perspectives on the innovative approaches. I think there's a lot of things to learn from the auto industry and from let's hear from Mr. Venkat on this.
Which I their policies are a lot more empathetic towards the employees, irrespective of the hierarchy. Like, for example, the vaccination, we have done free vaccination for the family of the employees as well as the family members, and this enabled us to have a lot more better connect and all. At the same time, the policies which are driving towards keeping the employees a lot more connected to the organization and a lot more relevant to the current situation. A lot of policy matters like maternity leave or taking care of sabbaticals, making people to go on leave for learning and coming back after some time. All these things have enabled the organizations to make the people to be a lot more, the workforce to be a lot more relevant for the current requirement in the future. I have seen a rampant increase in many of the organizations using these online consultancy apps and all nowadays, providing free consultancy to the family members and all. All such kind of things are making the organizations more acceptable and happy working.
Sorry, Mr. Venkat, I think there is some network issue. We're not able to hear you clearly.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, you were able to hear you now. Please go ahead.
What I was telling is that to cut short the timing, I was telling that the policies and everything have to be a lot more so empathetic towards the employee, irrespective of the hierarchy. That means we have to go back, break the barriers of the hierarchy, the dignity of the labor, and the family members have to be so nicely taken care during this pandemic. For example, my own organization has had a vaccination camp for the employees and their family members. We have given free access to all the online apps like MediBuddy and all these kind of things to the employees and their family members to ensure that free access to the medical requirements and all. So such kind of policies, paternity leave, sabbatical, and all these things are going to be the requirements which the organizations will have to follow to make sure that they have the best workforce to handle such kind of pandemics, or such kind of crisis in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Venkat. I think a lot of important points, and we are completely out of time. I'm sure we can go on and on about this, and we can have many more points coming in from various industries. I think thanks to all the panelists for such a wonderful discussion and for providing their insights on this critical topic, and and touching point upon the 3 tracks that we had about leadership and about strategy and about teamwork and competencies for the future, and finally, not last and not last but not the least, we had some innovative approaches and lessons learned from the pandemic and how we could implement for the future. Thank you once again for a wonderful and lively discussion and for providing your insights, panelists. And thank you very much, Harish and team, for putting this together and making this such a topic, such a relevant topic for this edition of the Manufacturing Summit. I think it's a very, very important and an interesting topic, and I really thoroughly enjoyed moderating this panel. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sriram, and thank you to all of our panelists for joining in. In fact, the way you structured the entire discussion, as you had mentioned, across strategy, or for that matter, leadership, I think it was such a relevant topic, but I guess gained a lot more relevance thanks to the insights shared by all of our wonderful speakers. So I'd like to thank you, Sriram, and I'd also like to thank all of our panelists for joining us this evening and being part of the summit. So thank you once again for joining us. Thank you very much.